Chapter 12 of Udyoga Parva, Krishna and Vidura. Krishna went to the palace of Duryodhana. It was beautiful. It was like the palace of Indra. Krishna climbed the steps and entered the great hall. He saw Duryodhana seated on the throne. Shakuni, Dushasana, and Radheya were sitting by his side. They all stood up when Krishna entered. They received him cordially. There was placed for him a seat which was fretted with precious stones and inlaid with ivory and gold. Krishna sat down on it with a pleased smile. Duryodhana was talking to Radheya. He now spoke to Krishna. He said, Krishna, I am feeling very hurt that you have not accepted our hospitality. We have made all arrangements for your stay and for your pleasant amusement. We have prepared excellent food for you. Why do you refuse all this and go to Vidura's house? Krishna listened to his complaint. He said, Why, Duryodhana? You have been entertaining me well. It is no matter if I do not eat in your house. I will eat with you when my work is finished. Duryodhana said, That is beside the point. Whether your work is finished or not is immaterial. You are related to us. We have been so anxious to have you as our guest. It is wrong of you to have been indifferent to our hospitality. There is no enmity between you and me. You must not talk this to us. We are quite fond of you. Krishna smiled gently and said, I am afraid I have to be frank with you. I am not interested in your grand feast. I do not relish food in the house of a person who is not righteous. You have been hating the Pandavas without reason for the last so many years. The Pandavas are dear to me. Mama pranaha Pandavaha. I am soul of the Pandavas. He who is slave to avarice and ill-treats them is considered by me to be the lowest of men. You hate them. So the food which you offer me is the food of an enemy. It must not be eaten. The Pandavas mean my very life to me. Mama pranaha Pandavaha. The Pandavas mean my very life to me. Your food is not welcome to me. I will eat only the food given to me by Vidura. He is dear to me and the Pandavas are dear to me. Krishna got up and walked away. He walked into the street and proceeded towards the house of Vidura. Bhishma and Krupa walked with him. They said, Please enter the house we have equipped for you. Krishna said, Please go back to your places. Please go back to your palaces. You have entertained me with your words. I am now going to the house of Vidura. They had to return. Krishna entered the house of Vidura, who received him with great affection. He pleased Krishna with his worship. Krishna ate his food there. He rested for some time. Night had fallen. After being refreshed by his rest, Krishna got up and sat with Vidura, discussing the burning topic of the day. Vidura said, Krishna, your coming is wrong. The foolish Duryodhana has become immune to good advice. He does not care to listen to anyone. If you talk to him, he will not listen. In spite of the advice of all of us, he has decided on war. He thinks that he can win the war with the help of Bhishma, Drona, Kripa, Ashwathama, Radheya, and Jayadratha. Looking at the huge army he has collected, he thinks that victory is his. He is sure that Radheya is enough to destroy his enemies. Your words and mine will be disregarded. It will be as useless as playing sweet music to deaf ears. They are all sinners. I do not like the thought of your sitting in the midst of them. Please do not waste your breath in talking to them about peace. I do not like to send you there, to the court of Dhritarashtra. They will insult you, the greatest of men. How can I bear to see you insulted? Krishna said, You are fond of me and you are dear to me. I have no secrets from you. Please listen carefully while I tell you the reason for my coming. I know all that is to happen. I have come with a full knowledge of the probable ways the talk will proceed. I have come to try and rescue these people from the death, which is imminent. I will achieve great fame if I am able to do it. Even if I am unable to achieve it, the fact that I tried to save a dying man will be enough for me. If a man thinks sinful thoughts and is not able to translate them into action, even if he has thought wrongly, the sin does not attach itself to him. And so, if this war can be averted, I think sin cannot be ascribed to Duryodhana and his father. This great danger has now come very near the house of the Kurus. If a man, seeing ruin approach someone, still does not do something to avert it, he is not a man. Even if he has to be dragged by the hair, a doomed man must be saved from the danger that is threatening to engulf him. I am very keen on doing this service to humanity. I am hoping to convince Duryodhana. Yudhishthira has told me that he wants peace. He has asked me to try my best to avert the war. I am very fond of Yudhishthira. He is the greatest man that has been born on this earth. It is an honor to be loved by him. To oblige him, I have come on this mission of peace. I know that it is sure to fail, but then I want to have the feeling that I tried my best. There is also this to be said. I want to talk in the court in such a manner that people will see the man Yudhishthira as he really is. I want the world to know the kind of people whom Duryodhana has wronged. I want the kings who have rallied round the serpent banner to see what kind of man Duryodhana is, the man for whose sake they are prepared to lay down their lives. I want Bhishma, Drona, and all the others to see what a sinful course they have adopted in fighting with the Pandavas. The war cannot be averted, but the world will know why the war is to be fought. That is the reason for my coming, Vidura. Krishna brought the subject to an end, and then they talked of many things. Sri Krishnarpanamastu. Chapter 13 of Udyoga Parva, Krishna the Peacemaker. In the morning, Krishna was just finishing the routine duties when Duryodhana and Radheya, accompanied by all the Kauravas, came to the house of Vidura to take Krishna to the court. Daruka brought the chariot of Krishna. Krishna ascended the chariot accompanied by Vidura. Duryodhana and Radheya followed him in the chariot of Duryodhana. Satyaki and Kritavarma followed these two. A guard of honor was awaiting for Krishna. The reception given to him was very impressive. Many elephants and horses followed his chariot to the palace. All the people in the city had thronged to see the great Krishna. The procession reached the palace. The noise of the chariots brought all the kings to the gates of the palace. Krishna descended from his chariot. His two palms were held by Vidura and Satyaki. Krishna entered the great assembly hall. Radheya and Duryodhana led him into the hall. Kritavarma followed Krishna. Dhritarashtra and the other elders of the court got up from their seats and honored Krishna. They waited for him to sit down. He was led to the seat made specially for him. Just before he sat down, Krishna chanced to see Narada and other rishis waiting to watch the happenings in the court. He told Bhishma that rishis were waiting to enter the court. Bhishma hurried to them and brought them with great respect to the court. All of them were requested to sit on special seats, and then, with a smile, Krishna sat down. Dushasana led Satyaki to a richly covered seat. Vivimsati, a brother of Duryodhana, did the same thing to Kritavarma. Not too far away from Krishna sat the two friends Duryodhana and Radheya. They shared the same seat. Shakuni was there near them. Vidura was seated on a seat which was touching that of Krishna. All eyes were turned towards Krishna. They looked and looked and were not, they looked and were not satisfied. He was so charming that the eyes were happy to rest on him. His glory lent a brilliance to the great hall. With his favorite jewel Kaustuba on his chest, with his favorite yellow silk draping his dark body, Krishna looked like a dark mountain lit up by the yellow rays of the rising sun. For a moment, there was intense silence. Suddenly, Krishna broke it with his voice like the rumbling of distant thunder. He looked at Dhritarashtra. His words were addressed to the king. He said, I have come to Hastinapura to prevent the death of so many heroes. I have come to bring about peace between the Kauravas and the Pandavas. I do not have to touch, I do not have to say much. You know everything. This, your family, is famous. The house of the Kurus is the noblest house in this Bharatavarsha. The scions of your house have been reputed for their great qualities. They have all been endowed with kindness, sympathy, truthfulness, generosity, and love of justice. Having been born of such an illustrious race, it is not right that you should be the first person to be so different. It does not become a son of the house of Kurus to do what you are doing. Your sons, my lord, have left justice behind them and are proceeding in the path of sin like butchers. They have no discipline. They have no respect for elders. They are voracious. They behave wrongly towards their kinsmen. They should have been known to you already. They have now, knowingly or otherwise, reached a dangerous stage. It is dangerous to them and to the world. Because of their indifference to the advice of good people, they are threatening to destroy the world. If you really want to, my lord, you can control them and ask them to make peace with their cousins. Even a difficult thing can be achieved if the will is there to do it. This peace is in your hands. Please be firm with your sons. Establish your authority. All the people here in this great assembly know how necessary it is for you to assert your authority. The Pandavas and the Kauravas will be saved if you interfere in time and do something. Please be warm and guileless towards the sons of Pandu. If this peace is made, there will be no one to equal you. Think of yourself being guarded by the Kauravas and the Pandavas. If you have the protection of the Pandavas, there is nothing that you have to fear. With Bhishma, Drona, Kripa, Radheya, Vivimsati, Ashwathama, Vikarna and Somadatta on one side, supported by Jayadratha and Duryodhana, you will have the added support of Yudhishthira, Bhima, Nakula, Sahadeva and Arjuna, Satyaki and Abhimanyu. Think of the wonderful army of yours. You will be honored in this world and in the next world as the greatest man born of the house of the Kurus. You will be lord of the world as you are now. Nothing can oppose you. No one can. If you are friendly with the Pandavas, they will conquer for you the world and all its riches. You can be lord of all that. Instead of that glory, you are courting infamy and destruction. What do you get by this split between the two branches of the same tree? What do you gain by the slaughter of the armies on both sides? With your sons killed in the battle by the great Pandavas, what are you going to achieve? Your sons are powerful fighters, but so are the Pandavas. Please avert the ruin threatening the world. I cannot contemplate without a shudder the war between these cousins. All the kings who have assembled here are bent on dying. Can you not save them all? Please save the world. The Pandavas are good and full of affection for you. Let your sons and their cousins live in peace. Remember the time when they came to you in distress? They had just lost their father. They have lived as your children. It is but right that you should be a father to these orphans. When they are in trouble, it is you that should comfort them. Do not kill the natural affection that should be present in your heart. You called them to Hastinapura. You sent them on an exile which lasted so many years. They have suffered so much. They still think of you as their father. You must take advantage of this opportunity and make up for all your past wrong actions. You are familiar with all the rules of conduct. It is but right that you should observe them now. You and your sons are not doing the right thing. This assembly is not a proper sabha at all, where justice is being throttled by injustice, where truth is being overwhelmed by untruth, where all this is happening and so-called elders allow it and are just looking on at this continual injustice. It is not a sabha. It is a breeding place of sin. Please so consider my words carefully. Return to the Pandavas the kingdom that is theirs by right. You know very well the nature of Yudhishthira. He will never remember the wrongs of the past. He will be very obedient and affectionate. I am fond of you, my lord. I do not want you to suffer the death of your sons. If you have any desire for now, in after times, you must make peace with the Pandavas now. Everyone was listening, as if spellbound. Krishna finished talking, and yet no one spoke. No one could think of anything to say after the words of Krishna. A few minutes later, the king began to speak. He said, Krishna, you have spoken to me about the necessity for peace. Can you not see that I am helpless? I am not the master here. My wishes will not be obeyed. My sons do not care for me and my words. If you can try and convince Duryodhana and Radheya, I will be happy. They will not listen to any words of advice from anyone. Duryodhana is too willful. His mother Gandhari has tried to talk to him. Vidura has tried his best. So has our Bhishma. It is all to no purpose. If you can succeed with where others have failed, I will be eternally grateful to you. Krishna turned to Duryodhana and said, Duryodhana, listen to my words. You are a descendant of the great house of the Kurus. You are rich and you are endowed with all the great and noble qualities which are characteristic of that race, the race of the Kurus. Why then do you behave like this? My dear Duryodhana, only those born of a low family, only those who are a small nature, will be avaricious and cruel. How is it that you are trying to behave against the traditions of your family? The behavior of good people is ever in the path of truth. Only evil-minded people will behave in an abnormal fashion. This behavior of yours is wrong. It will bring eternal disgrace to you and to your name. Please save your soul. Even now it is not too late. Please rescue your brothers and your dear friend from eternal shame. You can do it if you make up your mind. You will be gladdening the hearts of so many people here. Your father, your grandfather, your guru and all your friends will be so very happy if you agree to make peace with the Pandavas. Gladden the heart of your mother Gandhari, who is the noblest of all women. Your father is willing to make peace with the Pandavas. Why do you still hesitate? Do not disregard the advice of your elders. There are three kinds of people in this world. The first class is made up of those who are righteous by nature. The second class of people have only profit in view. Even if you belong to the second class, it will be profitable to make peace with the Pandavas. You are hoping to be the Lord of the world. You are hoping to be that with the help of Radheya, your brothers and Shakuni. It will be more to your advantage if you have the brave Pandavas as your companions. They are definitely superior to your supporters. There is no one to equal Arjuna or Bhima. This, your grandfather, and all the mighty heroes on your side cannot equal Arjuna in prowess. If you make friends with them, They will surely establish you as the Yuvaraja. Your father will continue to be the king. They will be happy with their share of the land of the Kurus. They will not encroach into your territory. Why do you not make them your supporters in war with others? No one can dare to defy you if you have the Pandavas as your allies. Think it over. There is a third type of a man. He enjoys doing what is wrong. I do not want to believe that you belong to the third type. Can you not recognize fame and glory when they are waiting to be yours? Why do you persist in this enmity? Why are you so blind to the advantages of peace? Make up your mind. Shed off this sinfulness as the serpent does its old skin. Emerge out of it with new brilliance. Give half of the land to the Pandavas and save the world from annihilation. Krishna had finished his talk. Bhishma spoke words of the same import. He said, "My child, please do not be obstinate. Listen to the words of Krishna. It is not a good thing to disregard his words. He has spoken words full of meaning. Do not bring ruin on this beautiful and glowing Bharatavarsha. With your extreme ego, you are trying to destroy the world. Do not sadden the heart of your noble mother with this your behavior." Drona too spoke words of gentle persuasion. Vidura said, "I do not feel sorry for you. I am only sorry for Gandhari, and your father who have to suffer sorrow in their old age. They will be childless. They will be just helpless and friendless in this wide world. They will suffer for their sin of having for a son a sinner and egoist like you." Bhishma and Drona spoke again. They said, "So long as this Krishna and Arjuna do not enter the battlefield, so long as the bow of Arjuna, the Gandiva, is not making music on the battlefield, so long as Yudhishthira does not look on your army with his burning eyes, you have hopes of living. Bhima, with his eyes red with wrath, will cause havoc in your ranks. Nakula and Sahadeva, with Drishtadyumna, will destroy your army. Please take heed and avert this calamity. Everyone is for peace. Make peace with the Pandavas. Return their kingdom to the Pandavas and live." Shri Krishna Pranamastha. Chapter 14 of Udyoga Parva, Duryodhana's anger. Duryodhana had listened to all these speeches. At last, he turned his eye towards Krishna. He said, "Krishna, you have been talking all this while to me. You talk as though all the blame is to be placed on my shoulders. I have been watching. Your gracious self, my father, my grandfather, my Acharya, and Vidura, all of you seem to think that I am to blame for everything that has happened. I do not see what I have done to deserve so much censure. I really have tried to see, but I cannot find that I am in the wrong. Let me tell you what happened. Yudhishthira played the game of dice willingly. Enough with my uncle. He lost his kingdom to Shakuni. How is it that I am blamed for that? It is not my fault that he played a bad game. You must have heard that I returned the kingdom and everything else to Yudhishthira immediately. Is it my fault that he lost it all again in the second game that was played? They lost and went to the forest according to the conditions. They are now thinking up many reasons to blame me for their foolishness. Now they have joined the Panchalas and collected an army. They are trying to pick a quarrel with me. We have not hurt them in any way. There is no reason for this war, which they have declared on us. As for us, we cannot be frightened. Even if Indra comes to fight with us, we are not scared of him. We will not bow down to him in fear. I cannot see anyone strong enough to defeat us in battle. Bhishma, Drona, Kripa, and Radeya are on my side. No one can face them in battle. I am only following the dharma of a Kshatriya in preparing to fight with those who are quarreling with us for no reason at all. If I have to, I will die on the battlefield hurt by arrows, or we will make them sleep on a bed of arrows. The dharma of a man who is a Kshatriya is just that. If we are killed in the battle, we will reach heaven. If death embraces us in the battle, if we are able to die without bowing our head down in front of the enemies, why, that is more than enough. We will not be sorry to die. Which man born of a Kshatriya woman will give place for fear in his heart? Who will be frightened by the enemy and accept that he is afraid? Who will be false to his noble birth and bringing up by bowing in front of the enemy with the hope of saving his life? The rule set down for a prince is this: he should always be upright. He should stand erect. He is a man only if he acts. A Kshatriya should never bend. He should prefer to break rather than bend. I have always lived like a king. I have bowed my head down, but that is only to my elders who deserve respect. I have never bent my head down to anyone. Never. This is the rule for a Kshatriya, and this is the rule I have followed for myself always. I will never swerve from my dharma. As for this kingdom called Indraprastha, my father gave it to them in the olden days. I know it. I admit it. But that will never be restored to them, not as long as I am alive. So long as my father, this king Dhritarashtra, is alive, the Pandavas and ourselves must leave our weapons in their sheaths and live as his dependents. When Khandava Prastha was given to Yudhishthira, I was a dependent. I was a child and I was not old enough to be consulted. It was given away to them either in ignorance or in fear. I do not know. But now that kingdom will never be returned to them. Not as long as I am alive. Krishna, remember these words of mine. Note them carefully. Not even land which can be covered by the tip of a sharp needle will be surrendered to the Pandavas by us. I repeat, not even land which can be covered by the tip of a sharp needle will be surrendered to the Pandavas by us. Krishna laughed a strange laugh. It expressed contempt and a great pity for Duryodhana. It was tinged with anger and sorrow. It made the entire assembly tremble with an unknown fear. They had not heard this laughter of Krishna. They had seen him smile. They had seen him frown. They had seen his face grave and serious. They had seen so many different expressions on the mobile features of Krishna. But this strange laughter struck terror into the heart of everyone. Krishna got up suddenly from his jeweled seat. His eyes were crimson with fury. Still, he smiled that strange smile and said, Duryodhana, you seem to desire a bed on the field of battle. So be it. You will get what you want. You have always got what you wanted. Be firm. In a few days you will see a great slaughter. You will meet your death, which you seem to love so much. You and your dear advisors will all get what you desire. You say that you have not in the least offended the Pandavas. You dare to say that in this assembly of wise people who have been familiar with every sin of yours, let the wise ones hear and decide for themselves whether your words are true or false. Burning with jealousy at the prosperity of the Pandavas, you and your uncle Shakuni played a game of dice with the noble-minded Yudhishthira. How can that good man win in this treacherous and infamous game played by your evil-minded uncle? This game is known to rob man of clear thinking. It is a cause of dissension between those who are fond of each other. Such a game you played to deprive them of their belongings. Yet you say that you did them no wrong? Which good man will insult the wife of his brother with the words you spoke? These men here, these, I say, who are sitting here, were sitting in that assembly too. They have also heard the words you spoke. You had Draupadi dragged to your sinful court by this brother of yours. She is dearer to the Pandavas than their very lives. All of them were silent then. They did not speak a word then, since Yudhishthira would not let it be known that the Pandavas overstepped the path of Dharma. All these elders were present when you spoke insulting words to the Pandavas, when they were setting out to the forest on the exile. Which good man will behave towards his own people as you have done? You, your brother Dushasana, and your friend Radeya spoke words which cannot be forgotten in a hurry. They were such a terrible words. When the Pandavas were children, you attempted to have them burnt with their mother in Varanavata. This attempt of yours was not successful, but that does not mean that no one knows about it. The whole world knows about it. The Pandavas had to live in hiding for a year in the city called Ekachakra in the house of a Brahmin. They had to beg for a living. You have often tried to kill Bhima with poison, with serpents and in 1,000 different ways. Your attempts have all failed. You have done all this, and yet you say that you have not offended the Pandavas? You refuse to give them their birthright. You will do it only when you are forced to do it. You will fall from this secure position and you will be parted from your wealth and your kingdom. You have behaved most heartlessly towards my friends, and you have the audacity to tell me that you have not done anything? You have taken leave of your discerning power. Or else, how is it you have chosen war when the advantages of peace are so many? I find that you are the most sinful man on the earth, on the face of this earth. You disgust me. Dushasana said, My dear brother, it looks as though these Kuru elders will bind you up hand and foot and hand you over to Krishna. They are forcing you to make peace with Yudhishthira. This grandfather of ours, Drona, and your father, and of course Vidura, are sure to bind up you and me and Radeya and give us up to Yudhishthira. Duryodhana heard these words of his brother. Angry like a serpent, Duryodhana sighed in fury and stood up suddenly. He paused for a moment and he walked out of the great hall. He did not care for any of the great men who had assembled there. He passed them all by without even bothering to look at them. He passed Krishna with his head held high. He strode away from the hall like a lion walking past the lesser animals of the forest. His pride was great. His arrogance was even greater. His ego was incurable. He could not submit to anyone. He would not listen to anyone. He would not sit any more in the court which had dared to pass judgment on him. The great Kaurava monarch. With him walked out all his brothers, all his counselors, and all the kings too. The hall was emptying itself rapidly. Bhishma was watching the exit of Duryodhana and all his followers. He was sorry for this unfortunate grandson of his. He was angry too. He said, Krishna, I can see that their hour is come. I tried to avert it, but it is not possible. This man is doomed. The Kshatriya clan is doomed. The time is ripe. They will all have to die. Krishna looked at all of them and said, I blame all of you for this. You are all of you, guilty. You should have bound up this sinner long ago and kept him in captivity. This time has come when you should do it. I am saying this for your own good. When my uncle Kamsa was harassing everyone, I killed him. I wanted to save the name of the family. I do not think I did wrong in killing my uncle. Please bind up these 4 men, Duryodhana, Dushasana, Radheya and Shakuni. Give them up to the noble Pandavas. The wise say that for the sake of the family, one can be abandoned. For the sake of the village, the family is to be abandoned. The village for the sake of the community. For the sake of saving one's own soul, everything should be abandoned. This is the only way to save the Kshatriya from death. I hope you will all listen to me and do what I suggest. Dhritarashtra heard these angry words of Krishna. He spoke to the wise and gentle Vidura. He said, "Go, my child, and bring Gandhari to the court. With her, I will try to coax my son. She may be able to point out the right path to him. If she can do it, we may be able to avert the great danger that is threatening us." Vidura went at once and brought the noble queen to the court, which was almost empty. Gandhari was wise and far seeing. She knew the difference between right and wrong. She was a great woman. Dhritarashtra spoke to her. He said, "Gandhari, your son has gone too far in the path of sin. He does not pay heed to the words of anyone. He has left the court without any regard for anyone here." Gandhari heard the words of her husband. She said, "Vidura, bring my son to the court." She then spoke to her husband. "This kingdom does not deserve to be ruled by a man who is full of avarice. My son Duryodhana is full of avarice. But, my lord, you, more than my son, have to be censured for this unfortunate happening. In the extreme love you have for your son, you have been unheeding to the rules of conduct. Knowingly and willingly, you have accompanied him in the path of sin. He has been possessed by greed and pride. You cannot control him now. It is now too late. In spite of my warning words, you made him the ruler of the kingdom. You are now reaping the fruits of your own foolishness. You have not shown affection to your kinsman. Which great king so far has shown differential treatment between two dear relatives? Only you." Duryodhana entered the court since he had been summoned by his mother. His eyes were still red and blazing with wrath. Gandhari spoke to him. She said, "My dear son, listen to my words. I want you to be happy. It is not easy to be the king of a great land like the Kuru land. You must be fit for it. A man who has these qualities, avarice and pride, cannot rule a kingdom. A man should have all his senses under control if he is to rule a kingdom. You are ill fitted to be a king. You have not conquered self. How can you conquer your enemies? You must consider your weakness as your foremost enemies. It is only after subduing them that you can think of subduing others. Come to me and sit by my side. I am your greatest friend. A friend is one who is really interested in the welfare of his friend. I am fond of you. I brought you into this world. When you were born, there were several evil omens. But I thought what all that was of no importance, since I could not dream that a son born of me would ever think of sin. Evidently, I was wrong. You seem to be the cause of a great calamity. Please stop it. Listen to the words of all of us. You think that Bhishma, Drona, and your Radheya will be able to defeat the Pandavas? Do not be foolish. Think of Krishna and Arjuna. They are Nara and Narayana. They have Dharma on their side. Where there is Dharma, there victory is. They are here to kill all of you. Listen to my words and be happy." Dhritarashtra once again tried to join his wife's plea. Duryodhana was standing with a frown on his face. He was listening and at the same time not listening to his mother. Now, without even a word, he turned his face away from all of them and walked out of the court. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Chapter 15. of Udyoga Parva, Vishwarupa. Duryodhana went straight to Radheya, Shakuni, and Dushasana. He told them, "They have now brought my mother to the court. I was made to listen to the same words of advice. I am getting sick of this. I have been advised too much and too long. It is time we put a stop to this. I do not want any more of these well wishers and their words." Dushasana said, "I am sure they are planning to bind up the four of us and deliver us to Yudhishthira. Father will now allow the others to do it." Duryodhana sighed with impatience. They conferred for a while. The king said, "This Krishna is advising them to bind us up. Let us do the same thing to him before he does it to us. We will make Krishna our captive. I have been thinking on this for a long time. We will tie up this tiger. When the Pandavas hear about this, they will lose all their spirit. They will be like snakes whose fangs have been removed. If we can achieve this, the Pandavas will turn their face away from war. Let us hurry and do it." Satyaki was prepared for something of this sort. He could guess the intentions of these sinners. He found out for certain what the plot was. He hurried to Kritavarma and said, "Your dear friend and his friends are planning to capture Krishna. We must hurry up. You must go immediately and collect our army. Before you come, I will enter the council hall and tell Krishna about their plan." Satyaki rushed to the hall. He broke the news to Krishna. Dhritarashtra and Vidura and the others were there. Satyaki said, "Look on the madness of your son, my lord. He is trying to hold fire in a piece of silk. I think he is either a fool or a madman to think of it." Vidura was horrified. He began to lament the fate of the sons of the king and the sorrow of the old king in his old age. Krishna smiled and pacified him. He said, "Do not fear. It is not so very easy to capture me. Your son has done everything sinful. This is but the final act. Let us wait and see." Dhritarashtra was in a panic. He sent for Duryodhana. He came. The old father said, "Steeped in sin as you are, I never thought that you would descend to this. What madness is this that you are planning? You are trying to capture Krishna, the greatest of men? How can you dare to do such a thing? The gods cannot do it. The sages have not been able to do it. You are more foolish than a child which tries to catch the moon with his hands. You do not know who he is. You can more easily catch the wandering breeze with your two hands, or the sun with your two bare hands. It is easier to hold the weight of this earth with your hand, but you cannot capture this great man." Krishna smiled at Duryodhana and said, "You poor fool, you think I am alone and that you can capture me? I am sorry for you and your inane thoughts." Even as they were talking, the hall was being filled up slowly. Krishna said, "Look, they are all here. The Pandavas, the Andakas and the Vrishnis, the 12 sons and the 11 Rudras, the 8 Vasus. You can see all of them." Krishna laughed loud and long. His face had taken on an unusual radiance. Even as he was smiling, the form of Krishna began to glow like lightning. All the Devas emerged out of his body. They could be seen. But by the side of Krishna, whose form had now assumed a terrifying aspect, they looked smaller than the thumb of the hand. On his forehead could be seen Brahma, the creator. On his huge chest could be seen the 11 Rudras. On his shoulders could be seen the lords of the 4 quarters, Indra, Varuna, Kubera, and Yama. Agni could be seen glowing from his mouth. The Adityas, who were 12 in number, and the Vasus and the Ashwin twins, the Maruts and all the gods of the heavens could be seen in his form. Out of his left hand could be seen the heroes on the side of the Pandavas. Balarama was seen to emerge from his left hand, and on his right hand could be seen Arjuna with a Gandiva in his hand. Behind him were Bhima, Nakula, Sahadeva, and Yudhishthira. All the heroes of the Vrishni and the Andaka clan were seen standing by his side with their arms and armors. The arms of Krishna were many. They held all the weapons. There could be seen the reputed Shankha called Panchajanya, the Chakra called Sudarshana, the Gada called Kaumodaki, and the word by name Nandana. Fire could be seen flaming out of his eyes and his nostrils. His aspect was terrible. It looked as though death, which has no shape, had now decided to take shape and reveal to the world her dread form. No one had the power to look on this unique spectacle. The human eyes were dazzled by the splendor and terribleness of Krishna. Many eyes were closed, but the eyes of Bhishma, Drona, Vidura, and the great rishis who had assembled there would not close even for a moment. They were drinking him with their eyes. The Lord had given them power to stand before him and look at him with their human eyes. There then happened a miracle. The king Dhritarashtra, who was blind, was now granted eyes to see Krishna. He was looking and still looking. He had the great good fortune of seeing the Lord when his eyes were opened. Heavenly music could be heard everywhere. Flowers rained incessantly. Dhritarashtra looked at Krishna. Tears ran down his aged cheeks. He prayed to Krishna. He said, "You are the Lord of this earth. I have been able to see you. Having seen you, I do not want to see anything else. Please take away this sight from me. I do not want it." Krishna granted him his wish. The earth was shaken by an upheaval. There was a terrible earthquake. The oceans began to get dried up. People were terrified. Taking pity on the earth, Krishna resumed his original form. He took Satyaki and Vidura by their hands and went out of the hall. He took leave of all the rishis who had assembled there. They went away too, after the departure of Krishna. The entire assembly of kings and the others followed Krishna like smoke following in the wake of fire. Kritavarma had just brought the army to the palace gate. He brought the chariot to the front of the assembly hall. He saw Krishna coming out of it. Krishna would not speak a word to the many kings who followed him. He did not take leave of anyone. Kritavarma saw a great sadness in the eyes of Krishna. Krishna heard the voice of Dhritarashtra. "Krishna, you have seen for yourself the power I have over my son. You came here with the hope of bringing about peace between these warring cousins. Please do not have any bad feelings about me. I do not hate the Pandavas. You saw how I have tried to convince my son. What can I do?" Krishna heard his words. In the act of living, Krishna paused with one foot on the footboard of the chariot. He turned his head and said, "I am speaking to all the elders of this great assembly. You have all seen how much I tried to avert this war. You saw what happened in the court today. You all saw how Duryodhana left the court flaunting his pride in my face. Now Dhritarashtra too declares that he is powerless. I take leave of you all. I am going back to Yudhishthira." Krishna's chariot moved fast. He was speeding towards the house of Vidura, where he had to take leave of Kunti, his aunt. He reached the house soon. After greeting Kunti with his prostrations, Krishna told her about the happenings in the court. He said, "This forest of kings will soon be burnt by the fire called the Pandavas." He was silent for a while. Then he said, "I have to go back now. Let me take leave of you. Please give me your message to the Pandavas. I will tell them how I found you and how eager you are to see them." Kunti said, "Tell my sons that they are all Kshatriyas, that they are the sons of Kunti, that they were heavenly voices heard when they were born, that I expect them to behave as Kshatriyas. Tell Draupadi that I am proud to have her as my daughter. They are all protected by you, Krishna. I have no worry. Go in peace, my child. Krishna took leave of her and left for Upaplavya. As soon as Krishna left the hall, Duryodhana stormed at everyone and said, "Let the preparations for war begin at once, this very moment. I cannot eat or sleep until this war begins." The 11 Nakshavinis were asked to proceed towards the field called Kurukshetra as early as possible. Dhritarashtra and Bhishma with Drona and Vidura tried once again to talk to him, but they could not move him. He decided to win or to die. Shri Krishnar Pranamast.